Okay, sorry, kind of out of breath here. Hair's kind of messy too, getting longer. Yeah, this is my video on how to build two play stands for my two upcoming African Greys, coming up now on Psychopath Presents. Okay, as you can see, I've already done some of the work. This sheet of plywood, I'm going to be cutting two chunks off of it to use as my base. I'll get more into that when you see it. I'm using two pieces of wood here. See if I can do it while they're going to kind of be apart by about like that. And I'm going to stretch branches across and out, etc., etc. That's for one of them. And the other one, that's a really nice trunk I got there. And this is going to be the other side, which fell over. Put it gently on the car. That'll be the other side. Once again, it'll be about that far apart, and I'll stretch branches and stuff across. And these are all some of the pieces I have to work with that I'm going to be using to stretch branches and, you know, tie toys, etc., etc. Now, the type of wood I'm using is apple trees, which I cut out of my yard. Look up, these are obviously parrots, so you got to be very particular about the type of wood you use for the type of bird you have, from the research I've done. And so you might want to research it before you use the type of wood you use. I can get away with apple trees because I live in Ontario, Canada, and pesticides are illegal here. So none of these trees are sprayed, so they're 100% natural. So I can use these trees. I'm going to finish figuring out which pieces I want to put together. Then I'll come back, show you a quick video, and then we'll take it from there. Okay. I got all the bark peeled, as you can see. I have everything sitting out in the sun to dry. These are all fresh branches. I got a couple of dead ones in here. There's one, and there's one for my second play stand, aviary, whatever you want to call it. Okay. A little piece of advice: the fresh branches, the bark came off a lot easier than the dead ones. So if you can get fresh branches, it would be much easier. Now, what I used to take the branches off was chisel. I made sure it was nice and sharp. I held it so the curved edge was down, and I just pushed it along and it came right off. What I also did was I used a saw and took off these notches the best I could. So what I'm going to do is let these dry for a couple of days, and then I'm going to pull out my sander and sand off all the rough edges from there. You can see the ends are kind of rough. Get rid of all the rough edges, make them look all nice and pretty. Don't want the birds to get hurt. And at that point, I will take them inside and start the cleaning process, which I will explain. Okay. You can see all my wood is out drying now. Sorry, my hands were a bit shaky today. Washed them all with Javex and that brush right there. Measurements were 1 to 4, so 1 cup of Javex, 4 cups of water. Wear rubber gloves, you know, it's always nice to keep your hands from burning. And then from there I scrubbed everything down with soapy water. That's why I got 2 buckets. And then I rinsed everything off with a hose really well. And now they set out to dry, and then I'll be ready to start the aviary. This is the first one technically done. As you can see, I used bolts. The wheels are underneath. Drilled them through. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 of these are locking wheels so that I can lock it in place. These are on the base, are also bolts. These are bolts. 1, see, I put bolts on the base, and then along here I bent them slightly, so, you know, like for example this one, you can see it's bent. That's it. And then I screwed it right straight through. If you look down in there, you see a screw down in there. So I ran long screws through, you know, from one tree branch to the other, so that to help give it stability. And yeah, this thing's pretty darn stable. And then up here, well, I put some twine on it just for looks, more or less, but I guess it'll help maybe keep them from scratching themselves. Some of the more unstable branches I was a little concerned with, like this one for example only had 1 bolt, so I tied it up, you know, to make it look nice with some twine, give it a little stability. This side's not going anywhere. I put the bowl right in the middle. See, just sits in there, all nice and pretty. Lots of branches to hang toys from, for them to get around. And if you look carefully, there is a fair amount of headspace too. I want to make sure they got headspace. Well, it's perches. 1, 2, 3, 4. They got a perch out there. They got a perch there. They got a perch there. Perch here. Somewhat of a perch here. That's a little bit on the flimsy side. They can perch there. They can perch there. So there's a lot. That's the first one. Second one I haven't started yet. I also curved the edges of the boards, if you noticed, so they're not too sharp. And yeah, these bolts are sticking up on the upside, but they're going to be covered with towel or cloth or something, you know, to catch the bird food. So that's the first one. This is going upstairs, so I'll start on the second one. So, well, what can I say? That was the second stand I made. That's all the basics for building a stand. I hope that helps. It was fairly straightforward, just extremely time consuming. I have to say, after building one, you really don't want to do another, but the problem is when you go online to buy one, they're like 800 bucks a pop. So it almost makes you want to build another one yourself anyways. Which is understandable why it's $800, because of how much effort it took me to build it, because I really didn't enjoy it. But that being said, that's pretty much the basics for building a stand. Hope that helps. Take care.